I was there last week, late last week, and there was water standing in the area nearest to the
Yes, up near that cedar tree.
yeah, up closer
Yeah.
there. I think that area,
That's a low spot.
I don't think it drains there.
Well, it will eventually. If it's dry long enough, it drains.
That'll just be infiltration, but it's not
Right.
getting into the system.
No.
No.
Not getting into the drainage pipe.
And I don't think there's any runoff from the National Grid property and not that much from the trail.
I can't imagine that there would be that much. It's mainly
No.
flat and there's other drainage systems.
But if it's not draining and we're getting, an inch of rain, inch and a half of rain, it's all gonna puddle there too. Not even counting the tides that are probably pushing water in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to figure this out. She did say that they were having their engineers, they were gonna have their engineers investigate it. So it could just be that they haven't gotten that far yet, but I will check in
Yeah.
with her.
Alrighty then.
Did Atkinson make it through the planning board?
Yes, it did. It did make
Okay.
it through. Yeah, they approved it on the 20th, right after our meeting. So, yeah, I think everything's good to go on that one.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Kim Turner had mentioned that she wasn't able to come tonight, and I said that's fine because I don't think that there's a need given where we left off last time.
Yeah, we're just basically waiting for them to make any changes, and if there were no changes, then.
Exactly.
Hello, Carol.
Hello, how is
Carol.
everybody? Happy
Good.
New
Hi.
Year. I saw both Steve and David over the holidays on the trails checking everything out. So
Yeah.
we're in good hands.
I love it. I should pay you guys. Investigative.
I was just enjoying the beautiful view.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Apparently the goat's not done yet either. But they seem to be getting closer.
Here's Dan.
Is Charlie still with us?
That's a great question. Hi, Dan.
Yeah.
Charlie hasn't been in a few meetings and I also haven't heard from him. So I don't know what's going on. Good. No, I think we did talk about this at last meeting that I would reach out to him, make sure everything's okay. Right.
All right. We'll start in 30 seconds. Julie, you might want to start recording.
I am. We
You
are.
are?
Yep.
Oh. Then. Never mind.
Yeah.
There we go. There's Tom.
She's ahead of you, Joe, as always.
Always.
Well, that's a low bar.
That's
So.
really not true, actually.
I'm
It's really
just
not.
teasing him.
Okay.
All right, we're there. All right, let's bring this meeting to order. This is the January 2nd, 2024 Newburyport Conservation Commission meeting taking place on the Zoom platform. And this meeting is being recorded. First item on the agenda, the December 19th, 2023 minutes. Do we have any changes? Anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second,
All right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
yes.
and I vote yes. All right, next item, Plum Island updates. Do we have any Plum Island updates?
Just quickly, I do have one small update, which is that DCR has started their dune restoration planting program out on along Reservation Terrace on the dunes out there. And I do actually have a plan that you can look at. This is what they're doing. So this is DCR's, they're calling it dune restoration. It's really just planting along the boundary of along the edge of the new dune on Reservation Terrace. So you can see in the green, that's mainly where they're planting. And then they have these sort of like small spots that they're, I don't actually know what the point of that is, but some sort of planting strategy.
Checking to see maybe how fast they'll spread out.
Yeah, I don't know. There must be some method to that. And anyway, they started on the 28th. So they may be almost done by now, even depending on how they've got Sumco out there doing all the work. So probably moving pretty quickly. But that'll be really helpful to get that planted in addition to what's already been out there. So that's the only update I have, and it's just all American beach grass, nothing special, but should be pretty healthy once it comes up in the spring.
Okay,
But that's it.
all right then.
As we get that nor'easter this week. It's
Yeah,
supposed to
well,
be a north-
Heard.
are they calling for one too?
on Sunday, I think.
Oh, joy.
Hmm.
Mm.
In that case, on to certificates of compliance, etc. First item is Daniel Sweeney, 152 Northern Boulevard. Request for determination. We continued this from our last meeting, the December 19th meeting, and they have requested a continuance.
The next
So
meeting,
to the next meeting, Julie.
yes.
All right, can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
Okay. All right, let's see. Roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes,
David Vine,
yes,
Carol Wagon,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes,
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next item is Christopher Sava, 1 Flora Street, request for determination.
Yes. Okay, looks like Chris Sava's here. I'm gonna move him over to be a panelist. Hopefully that works. And we will open up the RDA. So here's the location and the corner of Flora and Old Point Road. And it is actually entirely out of FEMA high hazard flood zones on Plum Island, which is very rare, but there are some pockets in this part of the island. And Chris, do you want to give us a little overview of the proposed project?
sure. Good evening. Nice to meet you all. My name is Chris Sava. I actually have my father, John Sava, who's also my architect on this, right next to me here in the office. So Dad, can you hear us over there?
yeah, I can.
All right. I know he's been working with Julia here a little bit. So we bought this lot. It's a double lot. We are planning to essentially develop on the existing 620 square foot cottage. We are not making any modifications, or we're making very minimal modifications to the existing site plan, which is a conforming lot about 4,900 square feet. So we're basically going directly up on the existing, single family cottage. We are using cantilevers on the top decks, so we're not really making any changes to the existing footprint, which should make this project pretty straightforward, hopefully here. So at a high level, that's essentially what we're doing.
Site photos too. You can see existing structure. Correct. Is this is Flora Street right here?
Yep, that's one floor. It actually splits, that line directly splits between Newbury and Newburyport.
Yep.
And it's actually one of the highest points on the island. We had it surveyed. This part, one flora is already pretty high up, so we're only adding one story and a roof deck. But no decks that will impact the setbacks.
Was that tree that in that first picture, is that dead? The
Yes.
It is that we haven't taken it down yet. We're planning to. It's still
Okay.
pretty strong, but we anticipate it should come down pretty soon.
We need approval from Julia.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to like sort of give me evidence that it's dead or dying or hazardous, and then you can go ahead and take it down.
Okay, I can take some pictures of it with all the bark falling off and everything. So yeah, happy to do that.
Okay,
there was one other tree. There's another picture that shows a tree that looks like it's right up against the house.
Fun.
Maybe that one.
That's the
I
next
think
one.
if you go
house next
further,
door.
I think if you go further down, there's another one, another
oh
picture.
yeah, the last picture there.
Last picture,
That's-
that one.
yeah,
Is that gonna come down?
No, it's not gonna come down. We're gonna trim it back.
It doesn't need to come down, actually. We can just trim it back.
Okay.
Okay,
It's a pretty straightforward project from a commission.
It is, yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why we bought it. I'm a commercial mortgage broker, so I look at deals like this quite often with developers that are doing fix and flips, whatever it might be. A big part of this was to not have to do anything that would really change the project. Basically what the square footage we could add to make the project work without any variances or special permits. So it was really key to us to do this without impacting the existing site, obviously, so we could try to move the project through relatively quickly.
So you're putting a second floor on, correct?
We
But-
are.
So, and it has a solid foundation, which would be allowed to remain in place because you're outside of the high hazard flood areas, as long as a structural engineer is okay, certifies that the existing foundation can hold the new square footage. So I'm
Correct.
assuming that you've gone through that. I'm assuming that you have someone who's looked at the foundation.
We have Joe Fix, who's a structural engineer, and I actually have a letter from my father here as well that I can upload to the chat. But it should be structurally sufficient. It's poured on a concrete slab, existing 10 by 20 concrete footing with a 8-inch concrete block foundation. And it's only a 5'4" from the top of the first block sitting on the footing, plus 2 courses of brick under the sill. So it's a pretty sorry here. Let me see if I can upload this to the chat if that would be helpful.
Or even and even better, if you can upload it to the OpenGov, to the permitting website.
Sure.
So it's just part of the application materials, that would be ideal.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can upload that while we're here as well.
and that's a letter saying that the foundation is solid enough?
It is correct. Yep. And Joe Fix has walked the property and seen the plans, and yeah, I have a stamped letter from my father as well that I can upload here.
Okay. Okay, so do we have
And you're
anything?
not doing any other exterior work, landscaping or anything?
Not right now. no.
Not right now. We're just, we have a hard money loan on it, so we're trying to move the project forward, without any big changes. But no, the existing landscaping is fine. We don't anticipate making any major changes there.
Okay,
Okay.
what are the green areas on the plot or the drawing here?
Sure.
Julie, can you zoom in on
Yep.
the house
Yep.
area? So is this what you're planting, or is this,
It's existing.
That's existing.
that's existing?
Yep.
Okay,
Existing grass, I believe.
Beach grass.
Beach
is
grass.
On the westerly. but the rest is a mix of sand and moss and grass. But the front of the lot is really quite nice.
Is that hard stone pavement kind of thing next to it? I can't really tell.
Existing gravel,
It's an existing gravel driveway. Actually, I'm sorry, my screen minimized and I'm having trouble bringing it back up here, but
that's there.
So if in doing this project, because you're doing some significant work, I mean, it's gonna be a much different house when you're done. I'm just assuming that you may want to eventually do some landscaping associated with that, or maybe clean up the driveway, or whatever it is that you might want to do. Just know that any other changes to the exterior landscape would need to come back before the commission, since they're not part of this plan.
Understood.
absolutely, yeah. That's been just getting through the construction element has been kind of a priority for us. Once we can get through there, and if we need to make those changes before we sell it, we'll come back and submit whatever we need to.
And as far as the existing landscaping and the grass and so forth, and the construction that you're gonna be doing, is there any potential that you'll be messing up the grass and so forth? And is there notes and so forth to indicate that you'll restore it if anything is damaged?
Well, we'll have an orange fence construction barricade detail around the property in the area where there's some of the existing beach grass in front of the plantings that were done in the front of the house. Actually, well, facing the back lot. That's where the parking would be. If we do need to put a dumpster on that existing grass, you know, we can have most of that on the existing gravel driveway. If we, you know, the properties, it's an interesting lot. It has the potential to be quite beautiful. And we would like to landscape it eventually, right? And happy to do any native plantings there, happy to, you know, happy to really add to the existing lot. But right now, the only thing I see being impacted slightly potentially would be the area over the gravel driveway into a little bit of a patch of the existing beach grass. Or I'm sorry, not beach grass. It's like it's almost like it's like a little bit of grass patch essentially mixed with sand. It extends probably 10 feet past the gravel driveway.
So we can easily put a little condition in with this RDA approval that any you know, loss or damage to existing vegetation on site, you just need to restore that after construction. And that could be part of a new planting plan that you submit, or it could just be restoring it to previous conditions.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're happy to do whatever we need to do.
And this site isn't further subdividable, is it?
We're not sure yet. Yeah, we're still in the process of determining if that might be possible. But, you know, essentially the deal works as it stands right now. That's why we bought it. It was, you know, we saw there was a non-conforming lot when we bought it. So we'd like to do our diligence and see what's potentially there, but it's, you know, it's not key to us essentially developing this home. That's, you know, we're happy to keep it as a large lot.
Yeah, we might have to put in a condition. So what happened on another project of ours that got subdivided after it got permits. I don't think we want that to happen again. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, although that was a little different, and that was related to buffer zone, area of buffer zone impacted on that previous project that you're talking about, Bill. So this is a little different because we're not really dealing with buffer zone here. But you are correct. It would have to go through zoning, and they would have to make sure that the lot area coverage.
But I don't,
Yeah,
I can't see us being able to restrict them from something in the future as long as it's they get all the permits and so forth.
Mhm.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We're happy to work with the city however we need to. It was, essentially, it wasn't something that was part of the deal that we thought we would be able to get. So it's something that,
Strictly zoning.
yeah, so if it's something we're able to do, it's a positive, if it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, our priority is to try to move one floor relatively quickly.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
Sorry, first time conservation committee here on a meeting like this, so
No, it's good.
we do it a little bit more.
Letting him handle this.
Yeah,
It's a
Actually, that
good
wasn't
first-time
even,
project.
that wasn't even aimed at you, Chris. It was aimed at the rest of the commission, if we had anything else.
oh, no problem. That's a reasonable question there.
I'll make a motion for, I think it's a -2 determination.
I think it would be a -3 because I think we discussed a condition about
Oh,
restoring
okay.
any damaged or destroyed vegetation.
Okay, a -3 determination then.
Okay,
Second,
all right, roll call. Steve Moore,
Yes,
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Tremendous.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Paul. Nice to
I'll
meet you.
upload this and send you a copy of it.
I'll upload this letter here shortly as well.
Perfect, thanks.
Very good.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you. All righty, can I get a motion to open the public hearings?
So moved,
second,
All right, roll call. Steve Moore,
yes,
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. So first item is the city of Newburyport, 388 High Street. Notice of intent continued from 12/19/23. We have Tom Hughes is around.
Oh yeah, let me bring Tom over, sorry, maybe he can just give us update on the planning board meeting and how that went, which I believe was a complete approval, but Tom, just want to let us in on anything that we might need to know about the planning board approval?
Yep, Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting here on behalf of the city for this project at the park. Yeah, it was approved at the planning board. I don't think there were any things of note. No changes were made to the project. You may recall at the last hearing, the commission was pretty much ready to vote, but we opted to just wait past the planning board hearing. So they had a meeting on it. They were approved. And unless the commission's got any questions or concerns, we'd like to ask you to move forward and close the hearing and vote on an order of conditions. And remembering that this needs the variance issued, as well as this is a local order of conditions and not a state one.
Okay.
can we just review the variance request for a minute? I don't remember.
Yeah,
Maybe you could flip to the page at the very end, Julia, the site plan.
yep, okay. Hold on.
Um,
Hold on. At the end of this presentation or?
Yeah,
the-
I
you want
think
the
it's,
new site plan?
no, I think it's right. I think it's right on one of those. Well, that kind of captures it. We have a isolated vegetative wetland that we're essentially relocating and converting into a stormwater wetland. So we requested a variance to the all the provisions associated with not filling wetlands, work within the buffer zone, There's some language that is within the ordinance and regulations that is helpful in terms of we could fill a wetland in order to perform a stormwater function, but I'm not sure that the intent was you could fill the entire wetland. So we requested a waiver to those requirements. Obviously, we're disturbing more than the percentage of the buffer zone, because we're disturbing the entire buffer zone to the wetland as it exists now. And then what we're creating in terms of the stormwater wetland creates all of the functions, gives you the same, actually a larger area. And in terms of meeting the requirements, we went through the hearings, we went over the request. I mean, one, there's a substantial public benefit of the public safety issue along Merrimack Street, and the need to get, children and vehicles out of Merrimack Street during those baseball games. I mean, I think every one of us at some point has held their breath driving by there with the crowds packing in and out of those cars. And then we showed that the wetland that we're producing and it's going to have more biodiversity, native biodiversity, and provide better stormwater treatment than what occurs now. So I think we've basically we've met the requirements. If any project deserves to get a variance, this is certainly one. There's a significant public benefit, and I don't think the environment suffers at all. I think if anything, it's improved by the project.
Yeah, I brought up their waiver their variance request. Can you guys all see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tom's right that they met all of the criteria necessary to.
Yeah, and you can see right there, we did look at the alternative, kind of trying to nudge the parking behind the wetland, and it just would cause massive, tree removal into the slope, retaining walls, just never really would have worked well and totally changed the look of the area. I mean, I think ultimately when this project is done, after the tree removal and the new plantings start to take hold, I think it's going to be an initial adjustment for people to look at the park, but it really won't look much different once they're used to it. It's not going to be the shocking change that some people fear.
Yeah.
And I certainly think if we cut into the slope and had like a 10-foot retaining wall, it would have certainly been everything that people feared.
There was a discussion at the last meeting about the treatment of the water coming down the hill and so forth. And if I recall, that was going to be tabled for future studies and so forth.
Yeah.
And I was thinking if we do an order of conditions, how that might fit in or not. I think this is a good opportunity to solve it, or at least try to.
Yeah, if we can go to the civil site plan, Julia, it's in that presentation, I believe.
Okay.
I think you have to go. It might be shown. I think it's shown there. Right in the bottom left, if you can zoom in to the stormwater wetland area.
Yep.
What we've done, you can see there's a label there, approximate location of alternate forebay. We have found the spot that if we keep water on that side of the cart path in whatever the solution is, it would end up going into a forebay to try to settle out sediment before it then overtopped into the stormwater wetland. Ultimately, that volume is currently ending up in the existing wetland. So it doesn't change the capacity of the system. But there's some discussion, and they've only really just begun to look at this. There's some discussion that they may be able to take some or all of that runoff and also split it to the other side of the cart path by piping it under. And And they want to take some more time to look at that and figure out how to resolve it. I think what might be, a condition that basically requires submission of a plan for the resolution of that drainage be submitted if it involves using the alternate forebay or any other alteration within the buffer zone. Could incorporate it into this approval, but they're just not ready yet with a plan for prime time on that erosion. That was something that really came to light. I think we all knew water was running down the hill, but I think the extent of how bad that erosion was really came to light during this review process.
So anything further would require a modification, a minor modification.
Yeah, a submission of a plan for the commission's approval, I
Okay.
think. But we have kind of parked an area there that would not require any tree removal or significant vegetation removal. I don't know if you remember during the site visit, we kind of looked at that area that was, I think it had a pile of fill. It would be the perfect spot for it. And I think all you would need would be to do that. And then you could kind of carve a swale and a letdown channel around to then drop that water in a controlled manner down into that stormwater wetland.
And in the process of doing the construction, like in the area you just described and so forth, if you encounter dead trees, that kind of I wouldn't say debris, but just kind of a mismatch of tree limbs and is that going to be cleaned up? Is that part of it?
Yeah, within the limit of work, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and in fact, I noticed that there was a fairly large dead tree that storm just before Christmas knocked over. I'm not sure if that's one that shows on our plans or not, and that likely straddles in and out of the project zone. I would tend to think they would cut that back to the limit. And frankly, it's a good habitat thing if it's left in place.
Yes, I was going to mention that dead trees are good things,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
even when they're standing.
Yep. Nope, they feed the bugs and really help to slowly release their carbon, whereas if you just take them and take them off, chip them or burn them, you end up releasing the carbon more quickly. So I'm a fan of leaving what you can. I think we're on the live trees that are being removed. I think more than likely that wood gets taken off site.
so it's your opinion is it's better to leave that type of dead trees and so forth as opposed. I just kind of intuitively would think that getting it out of there would help the surrounding trees and so forth.
Well, it depends. It depends where. I mean, you have to look at the individual situation, but if you've got your typical tree, it's kind of lost its bark, it's fallen over and it's just dead wood and it's lying in the woods, that is tremendous habitat value. And as it breaks down, it feeds the sort of bottom of the food chain in the ecosystem. So it's of tremendous value. But if there's a dead tree that's kind of leaning up on another tree and possibly harming it and creating a hazard, then obviously you would remove that. But it's actually fairly common practice. If I'm producing a wetland that isn't a stormwater wetland, we typically lay the dead wood down within the wetland. It's just a matter of course to help improve the habitat.
Yeah, I could just defer to others. I haven't really I'll take your word for it, and you too, Steve.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time on this lately, and dead trees are good things, standing or laying on the ground.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep in mind it's a park, so there are times when a dead tree's down and it's just a public safety issue or in a place where it's not great. But
yeah,
it doesn't mean everything has to be cleaned up and kind of sanitized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something we can just manage during the project. And if there's any questions, reach out to Julia and just, you know, get a second opinion if there's any doubt.
Okay,
So I don't think that needs special treatment in the permit.
okay, we got anything else? I don't see anything else. I don't see any public either, so don't need to ask public
One,
input.
I just observed one minor thing. But in your engineering plan, the approximate location of alternate forebay is indicated, and then I see there's sediment forebay as part of the system.
Right.
Looks like there's a misspelling on that on the plan.
Ah, I see that. Yep. Well, I hope
Not
you-
material, I don't think, but just if you're redoing it, you might want to just hit that.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know when they're gonna start work on this, when the plan is?
I don't, but, you know, that would be something we'd need to check with Kim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure where all the funding and all that is at on it, but I know it's been a big priority to really try to get this moving as quickly as possible, and I would be thrilled if this was in place for the next ball season, but obviously there's a lot of other things beyond permits that need to fall into place perfectly.
Okay. All right,
I'll make a
motion?
motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it. Roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
Yes,
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, and we need a motion to issue the order of conditions,
We need to close the public hearing first, don't we?
or we can close the public hearings. Yes, we do. You're right.
So moved.
And I'll
Second.
second that one too. Roll call, Seymour,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks. I assume you're going into discussing the issuance?
Right now,
I'll sit patiently in the audience and I'm available to answer any questions that are grounded solely in the record. Since the
okay, well, good, we'll make sure they are. So. Anybody got
Hey.
any,
Yeah, I have a question. Will this constructed sort of artificial wetland still then be jurisdictional for us? I mean, we had jurisdiction over the other wetland, but will this remain jurisdictional?
I believe so, well,
That's an excellent question. Bill.
Well, one reason I'm asking is then, the alternate forebay, I mean, it's an upland. And do we have jurisdiction over, jumping to an upland? Would we have jurisdiction over all of this, especially the
Yeah.
alternate forebay?
Question.
Well, it would be in the buffer zone if it's a wetland, jurisdictional wetland.
If we have jurisdiction still.
I actually think Bill, that's a really good question, because this is a very unique situation in which the commission's issuing a variance to allow the filling of an area under commission jurisdiction under our ordinance only. And then creation of this stormwater wetland is mitigation for that in a sense, because it's replacing the functions lost from the isolated wetland, which essentially served the same stormwater function. So it's replacing that jurisdictional area, but yet it's being designed and created as a stormwater wetland, typically which we wouldn't exert future jurisdiction over, a man-made stormwater management system. In this case, I would, under that sort of like foundation, I would assume that we were letting go of that previous jurisdictional area, and we would not have jurisdiction as a wetland over this one. That said, I think that it's possible, and maybe Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the legalities of this, for the commission to state in their decision on the variance that maybe you want to consider this new stormwater wetland jurisdictional because it's replacing what was lost. That's up to you guys. And I don't know how much water that would hold legally, but Tom, I mean, is that something they can do?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it's consistent with the record since we are mitigating and claiming it maintains wetland functions.
Yeah.
For the commission to
exactly.
put a condition if they in their deliberations on the closed hearing, they feel that it's worthy of continued protection and protection of the buffer zone.
Yeah.
And I think certainly the community involvement during the hearing process puts the support of the general community in protecting this area. So I think if the commission were to put a condition in there that kind of carved out that other than managing for plant health and O&M of
Yeah.
the stormwater feature, because this is going to be a hybrid wetland
Yeah.
stormwater feature.
Gonna need
that-
maintenance and management. Yeah.
Right, that the commission will maintain jurisdiction as an isolated wetland. I think that
So as an
Yeah.
isolated wetland that serves primarily stormwater functions as a mitigation for the lost isolated wetland, right?
right, but still has all the other functions,
Yep.
right? So
Yep,
I
the
think, I mean, I
habitat,
think
yeah.
you could exert a buffer zone, and I think if an applicant doesn't appeal it within the 60 days to Superior Court, I
Mhm.
think it pretty much holds, and I certainly don't see us contesting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think logically we'd be transferring our jurisdiction from the isolated one over to that, because like with constructed wetlands too, you maintain the jurisdiction over it. And, those plantings may have to be replaced, some changes might need to be made and everything, but I would think that if we would still have jurisdiction over a replicated wetland, so.
Yep. I think that's the way to go on this.
Yeah, I don't think we wouldn't be able to transfer this like to the state wetlands protection, but to keep the same status, I don't see why that's so obnoxious.
Would our decision to do that have to go out to some sort of notification in case somebody objected?
I
Or we
think
could
that
just do it?
goes into I think it would be maybe most appropriately done in the variance request, because in the variance approval of the variance request, because that's where you're allowing them to fill the isolated wetland. And I think at that level, and part of their mitigation, which allows them to get the variance, is creation of the stormwater wetland, at which point I think you can say in the approval of the variance that in doing so, you are maintaining jurisdiction, you're maintaining the status as isolated vegetated wetland of this new stormwater wetland.
Yeah, Julia, I would say that you could put that as a finding,
Yeah, exactly.
as a
That's sort of what I
separate
mean.
finding, not necessarily part of the variance, but
Right, as a finding in allowing
then-
the variance, yeah,
and then at the end of the order, have a perpetual condition.
okay, yeah, yes, exactly, okay.
And then make
Yep.
sure that when you do a COC that you list that condition as surviving.
Yep, and included in that is acknowledgement that this as a stormwater wetland also needs to be maintained and managed.
Right,
As
you don't want
such.
to need an RDA every time the forebay needs to be cleaned out.
Right. That it's consistent with an operation and maintenance plan system for a.
So we would have jurisdiction over any alternate forebay. It'd be in a buffer zone.
Yes,
So
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Which
you
we
know, I
will-
think it would be fair to mention, if you do that, that alternate forebay may be within your 25-foot no disturb.
Yeah.
You know, to acknowledge that, you know,
Okay.
there may be you want to be careful how you word that so that
Yeah,
you could allow future variances related to, you know, if they wanted to expand this.
well,
You
we
don't
should
want,
say something like work to maintain the functionality of the constructed wetland may allow, you know, may be allowed to include activities within the 25 foot. I can
yeah,
figure out.
I think, yeah, to,
Variance.
to improve stormwater management.
Hmm.
Activities to improve stormwater management, including additional drainage control and expansion
Within the buffer zone. Yeah.
within the buffer zone can be allowed as an extension of the variance under this order.
Okay.
Right, because for example, we cut back the parking here, and I think we did that. I think we're comfortable we have enough.
Yeah.
Should we realize that we end up having to extend that later and we need to reconfigure this a bit? You want to recognize that's something that the commission envisions as
Yep.
an approvable thing,
Okay.
but I think it was a great question.
Me too.
I had written the NOI with the assumption that it was going to be jurisdictional. But I think without a condition, I'm not sure it would have been.
Without a condition, it would have 100% been ambiguous.
Right.
So do we need to reissue the variance with the finding, or can we just add that now?
I think you could just vote a finding separate from the variance.
Yeah, you could vote on that right now if you want.
Okay.
Okay,
You're saying
we
we
need a
need to
motion or
vote
just-
separate, do we need, have to vote separately on the finding or just the
I'd
whole
make a
package?
I'd make a separate vote to attach a finding to the variance approval that notes that you're transferring jurisdiction, isolated wetland jurisdiction from the filled isolated wetland to this new stormwater.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second,
all right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Now can we vote on the order conditions?
We have the one condition that we're adding, which I'm not sure what the wording of it is. Julie, do you have that?
It's a tricky
Would-
wording and my brain isn't like having trouble.
So which condition are you talking about? Because I see there were two. One is
Yep.
the drainage from the hill, and the other is the perpetual,
Oh.
you know, per the finding above, the commission transfers this jurisdiction for the isolated wetland to the new stormwater wetland. However, it recognizes that future improvements to stormwater management on site may necessitate, you know, further alteration or whatever,
Yeah.
and will need to be maintained as a stormwater feature.
Yeah.
Um,
Including potentially work within the buffer zone required to maintain functionality of the constructed.
right. But then there's the other one, which is that any solution to the drainage, what do you guys call that? The cart path? The gravel path? Any changes to the drainage around the gravel path? That's the other condition that involve alteration in the buffer zone. Shall require an updated plan to be submitted
Okay.
for conservation review and approval.
Okay.
So
Good
I'll
with
make a
that?
motion to issue the order of conditions with those two conditions plus all the standard ones.
Second.
All right, a roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
Yes,
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Alrighty,
All right, thank you so much.
thank you, Tom.
Have a great
Tom.
night.
You too.
Okay,
Okay,
Very glad.
so
That's great. Glad Tom came because he was able to put that into words better than I was.
and we have that, you're gonna bring up that info
Oh,
on
yeah.
the
Mhm.
CPA
Yep.
request.
So, right,
Oh.
Joe emailed everybody about this request for CPA funding for the Gloria Brownhart Bike Trail Master Plan. Jordy Vining has put together a proposal for a CPA grant. And really just to improve the bike trail out there, there's a number of issues with it. And first of all, he's requesting $82,500. But things that would be repaired are like stormwater management, old, this sort of old cable guardrail. There's things like trees punching up through the pavement. The entrances and exits off of Hale Street and Story Ave need improvement. A whole wide variety of issues out there. And formalization and just public information about it as well, I believe, is part of his proposal. Joe, do you know more about it than I do?
I don't know a lot more. I know you can see some of Jerry's
Mhm.
dirt in the path there. So I would think once we can, I would like to see, and this is that's for just a plan, isn't it? Is that for,
Yeah,
it's just to
So-
plan it?
it's just for someone to come in and put together a master plan for the bike trail. So which would look at all the improvements necessary, what those would cost to construct. Are there any wetlands issues or permitting that would need to take place? Any public information, signage at either end of the bike trail? Things like, if we're gonna narrow the width of pavement, how narrow should that be? What are the best practices for improving the bike trail in this area? And improving stormwater management as well. So the whole thing would need to get looked at. And that's what this funding is for.
Yeah, and I think we would be part of any planning process too, so.
Yep.
Sure, we'd have plenty of opportunities to do site visits and all that with the folks doing it, so. And Jordy's looking for a letter of recommendation from the Conservation Commission.
can I ask you, so is Jerry still freelancing out there?
Haven't seen him in quite a while.
I haven't seen any evidence out there that he's been there, but I don't get out there all that often.
Yeah, no, I go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the amount that's asked for, well, it's not asked for from us, it's for the, whatever you call it, the CPA
CPA.
people. Is that enough to do the whole plan? And then they have to go through another process to actually get the money to do the work?
Yeah, right, yeah, I
Exactly.
think so, yeah.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
should be
just-
enough. I mean, Jordy must have gotten a quote from somebody or a general like ballpark figure for what they thought it would cost to do this type of plan. And then I'm assuming he'll go out to bid and get a consultant to come in and do the work. And they would have to, do the work for that price.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
A lot of survey out there for one thing.
I'm out there all the time and I've biked this quite a bit as well. I mean, boy, to me, it seems like a waste of money, except for up at, on Story Ave, that section in there gets pretty muddy and can eat your bike tires and everything else. But boy, the rest of this is just fine and there's barely any use out there at all, but perfect for bikes. I don't think it ever has any water problems on the trail and all that. So I'm just not sure. In my opinion, it was a waste of money, but
Well, the one issue is down in really high water areas, the area near Hale Street does flood. Their water does cover the roadway. I've seen it many times do it. And I know there's, I think one of the main attractions is to get it more used by the public. And, now it's dirt parking on Story Ave, and then there's that little lot on Hale Street. And I know a good amount of people do ride their bikes down there too. So to have it, clear out, have it bit more easier to use there, and to get enough advertising to point people toward it too.
Yeah,
So
make it more official, but yeah.
yeah, I think that's part of it, and would also doing this would also help with the Little River nature trail too, which runs parallel to this. So I would think as someone on the CPA, I would certainly be I'd back this myself. So
Okay, so what do we, Julia, you want to write a letter for us?
I can certainly put together a letter of support. Yeah, I'll talk to Jordy and see what he's interested in. What kind of support letter they're looking for, probably something pretty simple, and I can just use his proposal to help.
well, why don't we do a vote?
Yeah. Yeah.
And since it is something representing the commission, and get a motion to support this or not.
And
So
make a
moved.
motion that we, okay, there you go. Second,
All right, roll call. Seymour,
Yes,
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All
Okay.
right.
I'll draft something and I'll send it around to you all.
Okay.
And Joe, you could sign it.
Okay.
Julia, have you heard anything more about that Colby property that Jordy went out there and
No, I haven't heard it. I saw some emails about it. No, actually, no. You didn't go out there with them, did you?
no, I wanted to, and they said, no, we're going to be discussing price. So they didn't want a whole herd of people out there with them. So,
Okay. I might have a couple of emails that I haven't gotten to yet about that from last week, but I have not heard anything. I can talk to Jordy easily in the
Okay.
morning. Let me know
Okay.
where that stands.
All right. And everybody see that DEP looks like they're gonna be promulgating land subject to coastal storm flowage regulations too, which
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
yeah,
very
I saw that. I tried reading through all that stuff and it was just too long.
yeah,
I couldn't
I
do it.
couldn't.
The big piece of it though is that they want to prohibit any new development in the V zone, which we don't even do. So we still allow people to do redevelopment and expand their footprints in the V zone. Well, actually, we do ban new development in the V zone.
Yeah.
We allow redevelopment, but not new development. They wouldn't even allow expansions of footprints. So that's pretty big deal. It's also because we do that on Plum Island, but not on the mainland. So, and this is statewide. So I think they're gonna receive a lot of comments about it. And if you have time to read through and have anything to, say, submit it to me and I can put together a list of comments from Newburyport's commission.
Yeah, I think this is getting generated because the governor is big on the whole resiliency thing too, and she released the resiliency plan, and
Yeah.
coastal storm flowage regulations are an obvious necessity.
Yeah,
for
and they've
that
been talking about putting these regulations together for land subject to coastal storm flowage for, I don't know, 10 years. I
least.
feel like since before we did our ordinance.
Oh, yeah, no, every year I'd go to the MAC conference and there'd be an educational seminar on these regulations, and every year they'd say, well, we're not done yet, and we don't know when they're coming, but I've probably been to 5 of those
Me too.
classes, so.
So this is a big deal that they're finally out there. It'll just be very interesting to see what the public comment is and how much they get changed before actually being.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Julia, had you heard anything back on the enforcement order out in Plum Island?
No, I haven't, and I need to check in on that. I don't know if it's that the folks who live there maybe aren't at that address. So no, that's a very good question.
And did you have a deadline for them to respond?
No, I said to let us know if they could attend the next meeting. It was a very gentle, like the violation notice. So what I really need to do is make sure it got to them through the right address. So I will double check and see if they have a second address that I can potentially send.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was a violation notice, not an enforcement order.
Yeah, violation
Yeah.
notice.
My mistake.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's-
I drove by that. It looks real nice.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too bad.
I know. It's a tough one.
All right. Anything else?
Before the meeting, we talked informally about National Grid and nothing coming from it, but I think that was before the actual meeting started. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Julia, you said you're gonna check on that again.
Yeah, the last I heard from her was prior to our last meeting, December 19th, and she had said that their engineers were gonna look into the potential for what they call a duckbill valve or something like that. And I haven't heard from her since, so I will check back in and see where that stands, if they've had a chance.
You know, if they determine that there's really not that much freshwater runoff going into that pool, they might be smart to just eliminate that exit out to the river completely. Because
Yeah,
it-
if it's letting water in, it's not doing them any good.
it's just letting water in, that with rising sea level is going to flood the trail there at some point, and it's not that far away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, agreed. All right. Ideally, they could come in and maybe meet with us and talk with us in person about this.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been getting a whole lot through the email chain. So yeah, I'll see if I can get something a little bit more concrete from them, or maybe Teresa could come to an actual meeting and let us hear.
or it might be nice to have a site visit down there on a high
Yeah.
tide.
Site visit. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll try to get us an update on this for next meeting. And see if we can, I think a site visit's a great idea if they haven't already done one. And
There is.
I'll send around the letter of support, draft letter of support for the trail grant and Plum Island violation notice. Anything else?
Regard to National Grid, there is a 9.7 foot high tide on January 13th at 12:44 p.m.
Wow.
So
Big.
ask them if they want to go down there at that time, that day.
What's
I'll be more than happy to go with them.
You said it's January what?
January 13th.
13th.
Oh, that's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay with me.
Yep.
Well, there's
At 9.
well at 12:44 p.m. There's also there's a 9.6 foot tide the day before on Friday at noontime.
Okay. 9.4 on the 12th.
9.6.
9.6. Okay. 9.6.
Even better.
12 Saturday. Okay. All right, I'll challenge them.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Tell them to bring their boots.
Yep. All right, I'll CC you on that, Steve, so you can be part of the
Okay.
conversation. Yeah.
actually, depending upon, I have to take my wife for surgery on that day and she doesn't know when yet. But,
Okay. Okay, well,
it's just
maybe
minor.
maybe I'll
Yeah.
get some photos out there.
Yeah.
I think I've been.
Okay. Anybody else? Hearing none. I will take-
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, there you go.
Second,
Roll call. Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
Bill Mullen,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Bye,
All right,
everybody.
folks. See you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Good night.
Fun.
Right.
Night.